myself have never seen a transfiguration. The closest that I can remember, that I can recall, the closest thing I've ever seen to it would probably have been my wedding. I stood there next to my brother, who was my best man. I was the best man at his wedding. We just exchanged. And I remember looking out into the back of the nave, and Allison appeared. The makeup was perfect, the hair was perfect, the dress was amazing, but it was her smile. She was transfigured in a way with that smile. I was transfixed, even if it wasn't a transfiguration. She was smiling in a way I'd never seen her smile before, and getting married to me would never smile again. So I don't believe much in transfiguration. I have my doubts about what the disciples saw on that mountain. I have my doubts. But one thing I have no doubt about is what the voice said. If a voice was going to speak from the cloud on that mountaintop, it would say exactly what it said. This is my son, my chosen. And then comes the direction. Listen to him. What are we listening for? What are we listening to? This Jesus has so much to teach us, so much to say. And we are to, at his feet, sit and listen. Wrapped in this cloud, this booming voice tells us that this is what we should be paying attention to. In our world, that's difficult. Not only because it's hard to hear Jesus' voice, but there's just so many voices surrounding us. And a number of folks in this congregation and on my social media feeds have declared a social media fast or a news fast. I can't watch it anymore, people say. And I'm just turning it off. Which I understand. You can have too much of a good thing, and information and news is a very good thing, but you can have too much of it. And there are times when, as Jesus and others have told us, Sabbath is important. Rest is important. And so, yes, from time to time, we should be turning off the news. We should be abstaining from social media and the glut of information so that we can listen to Jesus. Except for the fact that that's awfully privileged of many of the people that are saying this, claiming the social media fast. Because for many people, the news directly affects them. It isn't entertainment. And so for those of us who aren't seemingly directly affected by things, it's kind of interesting that we can just turn it off because it's too much for us. There are people out there for whom the news is too much, but not because they're reading it on a social media feed because it's happening to them. Workers, women, immigrants, people victimized by war and violence and terror. The news is there in front of them, not on a television or on any other screen. And so I encourage you, taking your Sabbath, to not look away. When it comes to newspapers, when it comes to your social media feed, when it comes to the TV news, do not look away from what is happening in our neighborhoods, in our country, in our world. We should not be looking at the world as through a veil. We have Jesus who tells us exactly what's going on, and we miss his news when we shut out the world. I have doubts about the Transfiguration, but I have no doubt about the voice of God. The voice of God that can be communicated even in among the social media feeds that batter us. We can see, even in those many voices, we can hear the still small voice of God. And we can find even joy in all that is going on in the world, in our neighborhoods, in our country, in the world. Do not look away from what is happening. But by the open statement of the truth, commend yourselves to one another, as Paul tells us in the letter to the Corinthians. We should not be looking away. We should instead be listening and looking for the voice of God, for the likeness of God, for the glory of God, and proclaiming it, even in among, adding our voices, not to that cacophony, but answering it. The best solution to bad speech is often better speech. Maybe standing on the mountaintop with the disciples, we can say along with that voice. We can sing along with that voice. This is God's Son. This is the one who was chosen. And we listen